Hey class, so today we're going to have a lecture on SPP Document 204A. So SPP Document 204A is about um, the standards of professional practice on full-time supervision services. So for the introduction, so for the past 50 years, four principal members were involved in the design and building construction process. The first is the owner, who's the one who orders for the implementation of a project. The next are the architect and specialist consultants who render plan design services and limited inspection work. So when you say specialist consultants, it could refer to your structural design, your structural engineers, your acoustic engineers, and other specialized designers. Then we also have the contractor who performs the construction work and the individual or group of individuals who assist in the supervision and delivery of the work. So when you see AICC, that's the term for the architect in charge of construction, which is directly and professionally responsible and liable for the construction supervision of the project. So when projects were still manageable in size, the architect then assisted by a construction inspector, traditionally called the clerk of works. As projects became more complex, it became necessary for construction supervision group to do the full-time inspection at the project site. The construction supervision group is normally recommended by the architect based on their performance and hired by the owner. So they are answerable to both the owner and the architect. So the scope of services under this SPP, you have quality control. So when you say quality control, as the architect, of course, you're going to check if everything is in accordance with the plans, designs, and specifications. Then evaluation of construction work, preparation of daily inspection reports, and filing of documents. So the detailed tasks shall be specified under the architect's guidelines. So, or the manner of providing services, so there are two ways by which the architect may enter into contract with the owner. So the first is working in a dual capacity as the architect of record and as consulting architect for full-time supervision services or as the construction supervision group. So as the architect of record of the project, the AOR is in better position to interpret his drawings and documents and to assure conformity by the contractor. So it can assign staff to undertake the full-time supervisory work to perform the works as enumerated in the architect's guidelines. And the working as a consulting architect for full-time supervision services only or as the CSG. So for the methods of compensation, so the architect's compensation is based on the architect or the architectural firm's talents, skills, experience, and on the type and level of professional services provided. Compensation for full-time supervision services may be based on one or more of the following. So for point one, it's a percentage of project construction cost or PCC. So the architect's fee for full-time supervision is based on the PCC shall be detailed in the architect's guidelines. The next is multiple of direct personnel expenses. So this cost-based method of compensation is applicable only to non-creative work such as accounting, secretarial, research, data gathering, preparation of reports, and the like. So the method of compensation is based on technical hours spent and does not account for creative work since the value of creative design cannot be measured by the length of time the designer has spent on his work. So the computation is made by adding all costs of technical hours, so that's man hours times rate, then multiplying it by a multiplier to cover overhead and profit. So uh, as we have explained in the earlier lectures, the multiplier ranges from 1.5 to 2.5 depending on the office setup, overhead, and experience of the architect and the complexity of the project. So other items such as cost of transportation, living and housing allowances of foreign consultants, out of town living and housing allowances, of the local consultants and the like are all to be charged to the client. At the start of the commission, the architect shall make known to the client the rate of professionals and personnel will be assigned to the project and the multiplier that has to be applied for agreeing on this method of compensation. Okay, so this is the formula. We have already discussed this in the earlier section, so we'll only touch a little bit of it. So for the direct cost, you have AN plus CN plus TN. Then for the fee, you have direct cost times the multiplier. Then the total cost of service to the client is your fee plus R. Okay. You could also go for professional fee plus expenses. So this method of compensation is frequently used when there's a continuing relationship over a series of projects. It establishes a fixed sum over and above the reimbursement of the architect's technical time and overhead. So an agreement on the general scope of the work is necessary in order to set an equitable fee. Then you have the lump sum or fixed fee. So this method may apply to government projects since they entail more paperwork and time-consuming efforts. Then you have the per diem, which is honorarium plus reimbursable expenses. So in some cases, a client may request an architect to do work which will require his personal time, such as um, attending project-related meetings, conferences, or trips, conducting ocular inspection of possible project sites, and conferring with others regarding prospective investments or ventures and the like. So, for these particular activities, the architect, as the agent of the owner, may be paid on per dime and honorarium basis, plus out-of-pocket expenses, such as but not limited to travel, accommodation, and subsistence. Then you could also go for the mixed method of compensation. So what the SPP provides more than one method of compensation for a project. So each project should be examined to determine the most appropriate method of compensation. Okay. But there is a limitation of authority. One is that the Construction Supervision Group or CSG, which may be a qualified architectural firm or which the architect is only part of, shall not assume the responsibility of the contractor's project superintendent. Then the CSG shall not make decisions on matters that are the sole responsibility of the architect of record. So if you're the architect of record class, your authority is above the CSG since you are the designer. Now for the legal responsibility, the construction supervision group is responsible to the owner only for administrative matters. For technical matters, the CSG is responsible to the architect of record. So what's the responsibility class of the CSG to the architect of record? So the CSG is responsible for making sure that the project is being implemented in accordance with the plans and specifications prepared by the architect of record. Okay, so under Article 1723 of the present Civil Code, the CSG may appear not to have any legal responsibility since the architect of record and the engineers of record are responsible for the design while the contractor is responsible for the construction. However, a service contract agreement between the construction supervision group and the owner may stipulate certain professional responsibilities and civil liabilities of the CSG, particularly if the CSG is party to the review of the contract documents and their subsequent evaluation and interpretation during the course of construction. So what does this mean, class? Is that under normal circumstances, the legal responsibilities, it falls to the, of course, the AOR, architect of record, and the engineers who are involved in the project. However, there should be a separate service contract agreement between the owner and the CSG, which stipulates that their professional responsibilities and civil liabilities, especially if the construction supervision group is also part of the team which reviewed the contract documents. So the next is if the AOR and EOR and the contractor are sued by an owner for civil liabilities due to the performance or non-performance of certain acts traceable to the CSG, the AOR and EORs may file cross claims against the CSG. So the third statement is that what will happen if the owner will sue the architects and the engineers. So the architects and the engineers of record, they can go also file a cross claim against uh, the CSG or the construction supervision group. So these are the qualifications of the construction supervision group. Number one, should be have a Bachelor of Science in Architecture degree, and two, have extensive experience in design and building construction and must be very knowledgeable in building materials and construction detailing. Okay, so this is for UAP SPP document 204A. So next week we're going to discuss about 204B. So I'll be posting the details for activity class in our group page as usual. So if you have any further questions or clarifications regarding the lecture, feel free to approach me anytime or send an email. Okay, so stay safe and see you next meeting.